Imagine waking up in a cave 50,000 years ago. The air is cold. Your fire is little more than glowing embers, and your stomach aches with hunger. Survival is brutal every day, is a fight against the elements, against predators with teeth longer than your hands, and against the simple fact that you are small, fragile, and slow. You step outside, clutching a sharpened stone. The forest is silent, too silent. No birdsong, no rustling leaves, not even the distant howl of wolves. And then you feel it. The ground shakes beneath your feet. Once, twice, a rhythm like a heartbeat, but far too powerful to belong to any creature you know. You press your hand to the cave wall, and the stone itself vibrates. At first, you think it must be a mammoth herd, but then you see it. Footprints in the soil, deeper than craters, wider than your entire shelter. You look up, and your breath stops. Shadows stretch across the horizon, moving mountains with arms and legs. Their steps thunder through the valley, each one strong enough to topple trees, to split stone, to shake the sky itself. And that's when you realize, in this world, you're not the hunter. You're not even competing with lions or bears anymore. You are prey. How? And what hunts you isn't just stronger, faster, or hungrier. It is colossal. This isn't just the Stone Age. This is the prehistoric age of giants, and you wouldn't last a single day. So why? Let's find out. Your eyes snap open. The first thing you feel is the cold. It clings to your skin like a second layer, seeping through the animal furs you've pulled over your body. The faint glow of your fire still burns in the center of the cave, but it is weak, just embers now, sputtering, spitting little sparks that seem too fragile to keep the night at bay. You know one thing for certain: if that fire dies, so do you. You roll onto your side and listen. The cave walls groan with the night wind, but beyond that, you can hear life. In the distance, there's the low rumble of something moving across the plain. Maybe it's a herd of mammoths, maybe a saber-toothed cat prowling, or maybe something else. You've learned that in this world, silence is more terrifying than sound. A quiet forest means something larger is near, something every smaller creature has already fled from. Your stomach growls. Hunger is constant here. You dream of warmth, of meat roasted over steady flames, of berries that don't leave your tongue bitter and your stomach aching. But dreams don't keep you alive. You reach for the stone knife you shaped days ago, its edge already dull from hacking at bones. It's not much, but it's the only thing standing between you and the darkness beyond your cave mouth. You step outside. The air bites your lungs like ice. The world is vast, and you are tiny. Trees loom above you like sentinels, their branches snapping and shifting in the wind. You kneel to gather what little dry grass you can find to feed your fire later. Every breath feels stolen, borrowed against the odds stacked against your species. But survival is not just about the cold. It's about what lurks beyond the tree line. The saber-tooth could crush your skull in a single bite. The cave bear could end you with a swipe of its paw. Even the wolves, hunting in silent packs, could run you to exhaustion before you ever raised your knife. You live with fear as your constant companion. Fear of hunger, fear of cold, fear of teeth in the dark. And yet, there's something worse. You don't know it yet, but the predators you fear, the cats, the wolves, the mammoths, are just the smallest players in a much larger world. A world where the earth itself trembles not from storms, not from herds, but from footsteps. Tonight, you will discover that the greatest danger of the prehistoric world isn't the beasts you've been taught to fear. It's something bigger, something older, Something so massive that even the stars seem small when it rises against the horizon. And when you see it, you'll understand you're not a survivor here. You're an accident, a snack, a shadow, living in a world never meant for you. The prehistoric age of giants has awakened. The first sign is so small, you almost convince yourself you imagined it. A faint ripple in the dirt beneath your feet, subtle enough to be mistaken for your own heartbeat echoing in your ears. You freeze, crouching low, hand pressed against the earth. There it is again, heavier this time, deeper, like the distant roll of thunder, trapped beneath the ground. Your breath clouds in the air as you strain to listen. Mammoths can shake the soil, yes, but mammoths have a rhythm, a herd's steady march. This is different. The pauses between each impact are longer, slower, and each one makes your ribs vibrate, as though your body is a hollow drum. You think of predators. Saber-toothed cats move silently, their paws soft against the earth, their presence known only in the instant before they strike. Cave bears lumber, but even their weight does not send shockwaves through stone. No, this is something else. Something heavier. Something that should not exist. The tremors grow stronger. Dust sifts down from the cave ceiling, settling in your hair, your mouth. The fire sputters as loose pebbles tumble into it, sending sparks into the cold night air. You stagger outside, eyes wide, scanning the dark horizon. At first, there's nothing, only the trees swaying gently in the wind, the endless sweep of stars overhead, and then you see it. A tree falls, not from an axe, not from the slow rot of age, but as if crushed beneath an unseen weight. The ground bucks, a deep crack splitting the frozen soil. You stumble, falling to your knees. Ahead of you, in the starlight, the earth opens with each tremor, as though something impossibly massive is moving just out of sight. Your pulse hammers. Instinct screams at you to run, but where? The forest is no refuge. Those shadows between trunks suddenly feel alive, trembling with anticipation. You press your hand to the dirt again, desperate to make sense of it. The earth shudders with each step. And now, you hear it. A low, thunderous sound, so deep it feels like it comes from inside your own chest. A heartbeat, yes, but not yours. Then, through the trees, a shape moves. For a moment, your mind refuses to accept it. Too tall, too broad, its outline swallowing the stars. The dark bulk shifts, and the forest bends with it. Branches snap like twigs. A silhouette larger than any beast you've ever imagined takes form against the night. You can't breathe. Your stone knife feels like a child's toy in your shaking hand. Mammoths were terrifying. Yes, saber-tooths could kill you in an instant. But this is something older, stranger, something that turns every predator you've ever feared into prey themselves. And as the tremors roll through the earth again, closer this time, you realize the truth. The ground isn't shaking because the world is unstable. It's shaking because something enormous is walking toward you. The mist settles low across the valley, a silver veil stretched over the earth. You squint into it, praying it will hide you, but you already know the truth. Mist hides nothing. It only reveals shapes in ways the mind isn't ready to understand. At first, you think it's a mountain, a jagged outline rising against the stars, black and motionless. But then it moves, slowly, deliberately. The outline bends, shifting with the groan of wood and stone, as if the entire forest is bowing to its weight. Your stomach drops. That isn't a mountain. It's a leg. The tremors hit harder now, each one rattling your teeth, rolling through your bones. Trees sway and topple like grass, crushed beneath the passage of something so vast it doesn't even notice. The mist curls around its body, clinging to its knees, its waist, its shoulders, until finally you see a head tilt forward. Even from this distance, its shadow blocks out the stars. Your heart pounds so violently it hurts. You crouch lower, pressing yourself against a rock, but you feel like a child trying to hide from a storm. No matter how still you are, no matter how small you make yourself, there's no hiding from a being that towers above mountains. Another one emerges from the haze. Then another. Shadows. 2, 3, maybe more stirring, like titans, waking from an eternal sleep. Their strides are slow, but each one covers a distance that would take you minutes to run. They move with a strange, eerie calm, like gods walking a world not made for you. The air itself vibrates when they breathe, a deep, rolling exhale that shakes the branches and sends animals fleeing in silent panic. You hear nothing else. No owls, no wolves, no insects. Even the night has gone still, as if the earth itself is holding its breath. You finally understand what you're seeing. These are no animals. They don't move like beasts. They don't sound like beasts. They move with purpose, with weight, with the terrifying confidence of creatures who know they have no rivals. Your ancestors feared the saber-tooth. They feared the cold, the storms, the hunger. But standing here now, staring into a wall of shifting mist that hides shapes taller than mountains, you realize all those fears were small, childish, naive. Because what you're seeing isn't just bigger. It isn't just stronger. It is something else entirely. Something ancient. Something wrong. And as one of the figures turns, and you catch the faint gleam of eyes burning low in the fog, you understand with perfect, crushing clarity, you are not meant to be here. The moment those eyes catch the light, every instinct in you shatters. You thought you knew what it felt like to be prey, when a wolf's howl echoed through the forest, when the shadow of a saber-tooth passed across the cave mouth. But those predators were small fears compared to this. They were hunters, yes, but they were still part of your world. These giants, they are something else. Your body knows it before your mind can process it. You are nothing here. An insect, a crawling thing that survives only by accident. The ground quakes again, and you stumble, palms scraping against the dirt. When you look up, the nearest figure is clearer now. Its stride is lazy, unhurried, yet each step rips through the land with the casual force of a storm. You clutch your stone blade tighter, but it feels ridiculous, an illusion of protection. The weapon that might keep a wolf at bay is laughable against a being whose foot could crush an entire hunting party with a single careless step. Your strength, your cunning, your fire, your tools, none of it matters here. The giant pauses. Its head tilts, as if it senses you. Then, its arm lowers, passing through the fog, and the shape of its hand emerges. Fingers thicker than tree trunks, knuckles as broad as boulders. The hand lowers further, brushing the tops of pines aside as easily as you push away grass. A sound rolls out of its chest. At first, you think it's thunder, but then you hear it form into something worse. A laugh, low, amused, cruel. You don't understand the language, but you don't need to. That sound is universal. You are entertainment. Just as the saber-tooth sized you up as meat, the giant sees you the same way. Its eyes don't hold curiosity or mercy, only hunger, only dominance. And yet, the hunger isn't only for flesh, It's for control, for power, for the twisted satisfaction of knowing that your existence is fragile, disposable, meaningless. Your heart races as you remember the countless hunts you've joined against smaller prey, how you cornered the deer, how you threw spears until it collapsed, how you stripped its bones. Now, that is you. You are the cornered thing, the trembling thing, and the giant is watching with the same cold detachment you once held over your kill. You stumble backward, forcing yourself into the shadows, but you already know the truth. There is no hiding in this world, no strategy, no weapon, no fire. The balance of power has shifted so far that the thought of resistance is absurd. You are prey, and in the age of giants, prey does not survive long. Every morning in this world begins with the same question. How will you eat? Hunger gnaws at you constantly, a sharper predator than any beast lurking beyond the tree line. In the ordinary Stone Age, the struggle itself is brutal. You rise before dawn, clutching a chipped stone blade, and scour the land for roots, berries, or the faint rustle of a rabbit in the brush. Sometimes you succeed. More often, you return empty-handed, shivering, your stomach twisting with emptiness. But now, the struggle has changed. It isn't just that food is scarce, it's that the giants destroy everything before you even have the chance to find it. You creep through the undergrowth, searching for rabbit tracks, when the ground lurches, not a quake, not a storm, but a single step. You cling to a tree, heart pounding, as the soil heaves like a wave. When the tremor passes, you emerge to find the forest flattened. Entire clusters of berry bushes gone, ground into the mud beneath a careless footprint. Rabbits and deer that might have fed your people lie crushed in grotesque silence, their bodies snapped and broken beneath soil, compacted into pits so deep they could drown a man in the rain. The grains you once gathered scatter across distances too wide to collect. A single stalk of grass that could have offered seeds is now trampled, smeared into nothing. To fill your stomach here, you would need to walk for hours, exposed on the open plain, praying that the shadows on the horizon don't turn toward you. And then there is the hunt. Once, your ancestors chased herds of gazelle across the steppes, working together to drive them into traps, to bleed them out with persistence and fire. Now, there is no chase. There is only ruin. Herds scatter long before you ever see them, terrified by the footsteps of beings whose presence dominates the land. The animals you depended on are either already dead beneath giant heels, or so spooked they vanish into unreachable forests. Even if you find food, there is no guarantee it will remain yours. A giant's hunger dwarfs your own, and when they scour the land, they take everything: grain, fruit, meat, even the water from streams choked dry by their weight. They are not competing with you, they are erasing you, and still, hunger drives you forward. You crouch low, picking at the dirt for stray roots, scraping them clean with your stone knife. The taste is bitter, unsatisfying, but it is something. As you chew, you look up and notice a new scar carved into the earth, a footprint so vast it swallows entire patches of forest. Within its edges lies the carcass of a wild boar, flattened beyond recognition. You understand then that survival isn't just unlikely, it's impossible. Every mouthful of food you fight for exists only until the next step falls. And, sooner or later, that step will fall on you. Night falls, and the cold creeps in again. Fire should be your comfort, your fragile shield against the endless dark. But even as the flames crackle, you know the truth. There is no real safety here. Shelter, once your best chance at survival, has become another illusion. The cave you call home is nothing more than a shallow wound in the rock. In the Stone Age, it might have been enough walls to keep out the wind, shadows to hide you from wolves, a ceiling to muffle the roar of the storm. But against giants, it is nothing. Their footsteps split stone. Their hands tear cliffs apart as easily as you peel bark from a branch. If one passed this way, your cave would not protect you. It would become your tomb. You glance at the trees, their black shapes swaying in the moonlight. They seem tall, but to the giants, they are nothing more than blades of grass. In desperation, you once tried to climb, fingers digging into rough bark as you pulled yourself upward, heart hammering with hope. But from above, you saw how exposed you really were. Even the tallest tree was barely higher than the giant's ankle. You were not hidden. You were a lantern, waving in the dark, an insect clinging to a twig. So where do you go? You crawl into cracks in the earth, your body pressed into damp soil, shivering as you listen for the quaking rhythm of footsteps above. But the ground itself betrays you. The vibrations travel through stone and dirt, rattling your bones, shaking loose pebbles that cascade around you, marking your hiding place. And then there's the sound, the terrifying silence that follows when the tremors stop. That silence means it has paused. It is listening. You imagine for a moment building something stronger, something worthy of defense. But what tools do you have? Stones, sticks, fire, barely tamed. Even if you raised walls higher than your own body, they would topple like a child's toys beneath the sweep of a giant's hand. Every human effort looks pitiful in their world doorways, too low to matter, roofs that collapse under their gaze, weapons that snap like twigs. And so you realize, with a cold clarity, that nowhere is safe. Not caves, not trees, not huts built from branches. You are too small, and the world itself has been reshaped by creatures too large for you to comprehend. You crouch near the dying fire, pulling furs around your shoulders, listening as the ground trembles again in the distance. Shelter has failed you. Safety is a lie. The night offers no refuge, only the promise of being found. In the age of giants, there are no homes. There are only hiding places, and none of them last for long. The world was already cruel before the giants came. Every night, you feared the low growl of a saber-toothed cat stalking the mouth of your cave. Their teeth curved like knives, long enough to pierce a mammoth's hide, and sharper than anything your stone tools could hope to match. You feared the dire wolves, two packs of lean, relentless hunters, their yellow eyes glowing in the firelight as they circled the edges of the dark. And worse still, the cave bear, a beast so massive it could flip boulders aside with a single paw, its roar echoing like thunder through the valleys. These creatures were kings in their own right, masters of a prehistoric world that saw you as nothing but meat wrapped in fur. Each hunt was a gamble. Each night of sleep was a borrowed miracle. And yet, even against them, you had a chance. Fire scared the wolves. Spears could wound the cats. Traps could slow the bears. Your people had learned to adapt, to strategize, to survive in the narrow space between predator and prey. But then came the giants. Their arrival shattered the old balance. The predators you once feared fled before them, tails tucked, howls silenced. You once thought wolves hunted in silence. Now you understand it was fear. When the ground shakes with footsteps larger than houses, even a saber-tooth becomes a whisper in the dark. You saw it once, a giant stooping low, its hand closing around a cave bear. The beast roared and clawed, but it was nothing. crushed between fingers, thicker than tree trunks. The bear that once ruled the valley was reduced to a struggling toy, its life extinguished with casual indifference. And in that moment, a terrible truth dawned on you. The hierarchy of nature had been rewritten. You were no longer fighting for scraps beneath wolves and cats. You were beneath them all. Every beast you feared was prey now, just as you are. The giants did not compete with predators. They consumed them. Entire packs of wolves, lifted as easily as you might lift a handful of berries. Saber-toothed snatched mid-leap, their snarls muffled as they disappeared into vast mouths. Predators that haunted your nightmares were now nothing more than appetizers, distractions between meals. For the first time, you find yourself pitying the beasts. The wolves, the cats, the bears. They were cruel, but they were part of the same world as you. They hunted to live. The giants hunt because they can, because dominance alone is not enough. They must prove it, again and again, crushing everything beneath them until nothing remains but silence. And as you crouch in the shadows, clutching your useless blade, you realize you share the same fate as the predators you once feared. You are no longer the bottom of the chain. There is no chain at all. There is only them. You were taught, in your own way, to fear the beasts of this land, but nothing prepared you for this. As you huddle in the dark, watching figures taller than mountains move with a calm that mocks your terror, a thought claws at the edge of your mind. This has happened before, somewhere deep in the memory of your people. In the stories whispered around fires, there were warnings. The Hebrews spoke of them, the Nephilim, beings born of divine rebellion, half-blood children of angels and women. Their presence filled the earth with violence. They weren't described as hunters or guardians. They were destroyers. The old scrolls say that in those days, humans looked at themselves and said, "We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them." You understand that now. Every step they take reminds you how insignificant you are. But the Hebrews were not alone in remembering. Across the sea, the Greeks told of the Titans, colossal beings who ruled before the gods of Olympus. They were said to be cast into Tartarus, locked away beneath the earth. Yet watching their shadows ripple through the mist, you wonder if the myths were not punishment stories at all, but warnings written by survivors. Survivors who saw creatures so vast that they mistook them for gods, only to realize they were something far worse. Even the Norse, far to the north, remembered. They spoke of the Jotnar giants, of chaos, older than the gods themselves. Frost giants, fire giants, beings who waged war not with blades, but with mountains, rivers, and storms. To the Norse, these giants were the enemies of creation itself. Looking now at the figures blotting out the stars, you feel the truth of those tales. The giants are not simply creatures of flesh and bone. They carry chaos with them, twisting the world around their colossal presence. And then it strikes you. These myths come from every corner of the earth. The Nephilim, the Titans, the Jotnar, the Fomorians of Celtic lore, the Oni of Japan. The stories are not isolated, they are echoes, different languages, different names, but the same memory, the same nightmare. Your breath catches as you realize what you're witnessing. You are not just in the Stone Age. You are standing in the world, behind every legend, every whispered tale of monsters too large for memory to hold. These giants are not inventions of frightened storytellers. They are here, now, towering above you in flesh and shadow. And in that moment, the stories stop feeling like myths. They feel like history. A history you are now trapped inside. The silence is what betrays you. For a moment, the trembling earth goes still, the mist hangs unmoving, and every living thing around you seems to vanish. You know this silence. It is the pause before the pounce, the hush before the storm. But this time, it isn't a predator hiding in the grass. It's something far worse. The shadow shifts. A giant turns, its colossal frame blotting out the horizon, and then it lowers its head, scanning the ground with eyes that glint faintly in the firelight. You freeze, every muscle locking into place, as though stillness could save you. But stillness is meaningless to something that can see your entire world with a glance. Then you hear it, the sound of air moving, a low rushing, like a storm wind. You look up, and your heart seizes in your chest. A hand is descending. It is larger than your entire cave, fingers thicker than the trees you once thought were tall. They curl downward lazily, as though plucking you from the earth is no more effort than lifting a pebble from a river. The sheer size of it makes your mind rebel. You cannot comprehend flesh so vast, skin that stretches over distances greater than your whole body. You stumble backward, knife clattering from your hand. Instinct screams at you to run. But run where? The ground shakes as the fingers spread, shadow falling over you like a net. Your legs twitch but refuse to obey. You know the truth now. Escape is not an option. There is nowhere to hide, nowhere small enough to conceal you, nowhere safe, in a world owned by beings this large. The hand hovers above you, blotting out the stars. The smell of earth and something ancient clings to it, a musk that makes your stomach twist. You glance to the side and see a wolf, a predator you once feared. Frozen, as well, its yellow eyes wide with the same recognition. It is prey too. The fingers dip lower, brushing against the ground with a sound like branches snapping. Dust whirls around you, choking your lungs. And then one of them nudges your side. A simple tap, but it sends you sprawling, as though struck by a falling tree. The giant is playing with you, testing you, amused. And as you scramble to your knees, gasping, you understand what you never wanted to admit. This world does not belong to you. It never did. You are an insect in their garden, a toy in their grasp. And now that they've noticed you, your story is no longer your own. The hand withdraws, leaving the ground trembling in its wake, but you feel no relief. If anything, dread deepens in your chest, because you know what comes next. The stories whispered by the fire weren't just about their size or their power. They were about their hunger. The Book of Enoch speaks of it plainly. The giants consumed all the acquisitions of men. At first, it was the crops, whole fields torn away in a single handful, grains spilling like sand between their fingers, orchards ripped apart, the fruit devoured before it even ripened. Nothing was left for the people who planted, who waited, who prayed for enough to survive the winter. Then it was the animals. You once feared losing your kill to wolves or cave bears. Imagine watching a giant pluck an entire mammoth calf from the herd, as casually as you pick berries from a bush. Their jaws close, bone and sinew snapping like twigs, the carcass swallowed in a single gulp. Wolves scatter, cats flee, and all that remains is silence, broken only by the wet sound of chewing. But the texts are clear. When the food of the earth was gone, they turned on humanity itself. You see it now. The hand lowers again, but this time it isn't reaching for you. It brushes aside the rubble of a shattered hut, thick fingers digging through the remains, as though searching in a pile of leaves. Then it finds what it wants. A man, your neighbor, dangling between thumb and forefinger. His legs kick wildly, his screams piercing the night, but they mean nothing to the giant. To it, He is no different than a rabbit caught in the brush. You watch in horror as he's lifted upward, the distance so great, you can't even see his face anymore, only his twisting body against the stars. Then comes the sound, the crunch, flesh tearing, bones splitting, a cry cut short as the man disappears into a mouth so vast you could walk into it, upright. Another hand reaches down. This time, it plucks two figures at once, a woman and her child, their small forms pinched effortlessly between fingers. The giant tilts its head back, dropping them into its maw like seeds into fertile soil. The wet swallow that follows echoes, louder than any predator's roar you've ever known. You can't move. Your body shakes violently, not just from fear, but from the shattering of every illusion you once held about survival. You thought you were clever enough to hide, strong enough to fight, desperate enough to endure. But here, in the prehistoric age of giants, you are something else entirely. You are food. The night drags on, but there is no rest. You crouch in the rubble of what used to be your home, the fire long extinguished, the air thick with smoke and dust. The giants have moved on, their thunderous steps fading into the mist, but their presence lingers in the broken earth. And as you stare out across the landscape, you notice something that steals what little breath remains in your chest. Stones. Not scattered rocks, not the jagged edges of cliffs, but blocks so massive, so perfectly placed, they seem unnatural. You've seen stones toppled by storms, rolled by rivers, carved crudely by your people's tools. But these are different. They are smooth, precise, cut with a mastery that should be impossible. And they are huge. You walk closer, trembling hands brushing the surface. The block towers over you like a wall, its edges so straight you could cut your palm on them. How could hands, like yours, have shaped this? How could tools of bone and flint carve stone that even iron would struggle to mark? And then the truth dawns. They weren't shaped by your hands. You've heard the names whispered across lands and generations. The trilithons of Stonehenge, rising like silent guardians on the plain. The massive foundation stones of Baalbek, some weighing over 800 tons, their weight greater than entire herds of mammoths. The fitted walls of Pumapunku in the high Andes, each block cut with such precision that not even a knife blade can slip between them. These are not the works of humans scratching survival from the soil. These are the fingerprints of giants. You picture it now. A figure bending low, hands the size of fields curling around a stone, heavier than 100 of your people could move. With a grunt of effort, it lifts it, as though it were a child's toy. Another giant gestures, and together they stack the blocks one atop the other, shaping walls that will outlast storms, earthquakes, even time itself. To them, these aren't monuments. They aren't mysteries. They are furniture, settlements, casual works of architecture in a world built on their scale. And here you are, centuries later, staring at them in disbelief. Your ancestors will one day gather at these places and wonder how such things could have been made, spinning tales of gods and impossible knowledge. But you know the truth. You saw the hands that moved these stones. You felt the ground shudder when they were set in place. These ruins aren't sacred sites. They're leftovers, the bones of a world that belonged not to you, but to them. And standing before them now, you understand what every cut, every seam, every towering block truly says. This world was not built for humans. It was built for giants. You wander deeper among the ruins, still shaken by what you've seen. The stones alone were enough to break your understanding of the world. But then your eyes fall on something else. Objects scattered like discarded toys across the shattered earth. At first, you think they're boulders, irregular in shape, half buried in the soil. But as you brush away the dirt, your stomach knots. This isn't rock, it's worked stone. A handle carved smooth, an edge ground sharp long ago. You step back, eyes wide, because what you're looking at is not a boulder. It's a weapon, a stone axe. Its blade, taller than your body, lies where it was dropped. You imagine trying to lift it, even with the strength of your entire tribe. And no, it would never move. For a giant, though, it's nothing more than a hunting tool, a simple extension of their hand. One swing could fell a forest. One strike could split a mammoth in two. Nearby, you see what you first mistake for a pond. But as you approach, you realize the truth. A vessel hollowed and smoothed, edges curved, as though shaped to lips that could never belong to you. It's a cup, yes, but a cup so large you could bathe in it, so wide it could swallow a whole family in its curve. Everywhere you look, the evidence piles higher. Hammers that weigh as much as herds of bison, needles carved from bone longer than your arm, weapons, bowls, tools, scattered through the ruins, each one a silent mockery of your existence. What you thought of as mighty the fire you tamed, the blades you sharpened, suddenly feels like the toys of children, laughable beside the true scale of power. And then, just as despair begins to swallow you whole, you notice something strange. The tools aren't abandoned in neat rows, as if laid down after a day's work. They're broken, shattered edges, snapped handles, fragments of weapons, left half buried in rubble. You step carefully, tracing the lines of destruction, and a realization strikes you like cold water. These were not simply discarded, they were destroyed. Why? Your heart hammers as you scan the ruins again, and for the first time, you see more than the shadows of giants. You see chaos. Stones toppled, not with patience, but with violence. Weapons fractured not from use, but from war. These tools weren't abandoned by giants who grew tired of them. They were lost in battle. How? Which means the giants weren't alone. For the first time, you feel something that is not terror, but curiosity, a dangerous spark in the darkness. If the giants fought each other, if they destroyed their own works, then maybe, just maybe, there is something more to this story. Perhaps the giants weren't invincible gods, after all. And yet, as the ground trembles again beneath your feet, a familiar rhythm, returning from the mist, that spark of hope is smothered. Whatever war shattered their tools, it didn't destroy them all. Some survived, some still walk, and one of them is coming. The tremors return before your fire can even recover its flame. You scramble back into the cave, clutching your arms around your body, but you already know it's useless. The footsteps may pass this time, or they may stop directly above you. Either way, there is no safety. Your body won't stop shaking. You tell yourself to breathe, to stay still, but your chest is tight, your pulse so loud, it feels like a drum in your ears. You strain to hear what's out there, but every sound is a weapon against you. A crack of wood in the fire makes you flinch. A pebble tumbling down the cave wall sends your heart lurching. Each noise is magnified 100-fold, because it might be them. This is what life has become. You are not living. You are waiting. Waiting for the next tremor, the next shadow, the next hand, to sweep away everything you know. You used to sleep in fits, one eye open, listening for the approach of wolves. But now, sleep is gone altogether. Close your eyes, and you see them towering in the mist. Eyes like embers. Fingers reaching down. You jolt awake at the faintest sound, covered in sweat, heart hammering, as though the earth itself were crushing you. Even when there is no danger, your body insists. It is here. The fear is constant, a sickness gnawing at your mind. Your people have no word for it yet, but if you lived in another age, it would be called trauma. Your mind is trapped in fight or flight, with no release. Each day your nerves fray thinner. Each night, your body grows weaker. Food barely fills you. Sleep never restores you. And the world feels sharper, harsher, more cruel with every passing hour. And then comes the worst realization of all. You are not alone in this. Unraveling, look at your companions. The hunter beside you stares at nothing, lips moving in whispers, only he can hear. The woman who once sang softly to her child now sits in silence, rocking back and forth, eyes fixed on the cave floor. One by one, their minds fracture beneath the endless strain. You see them not just starving of food, but starving of hope. Every sound now is a threat. Every crackle in the fire, every shifting shadow at the cave mouth feels like a giant's return. You cannot tell the difference between safety and doom, because there is no difference. Doom will come, whether tonight, tomorrow, or in a week. And somewhere deep inside, a thought you cannot stop begins to grow. Perhaps it would be easier if it ended quickly. Perhaps death would be mercy compared to this endless dread. But then the tremors come again, louder this time, closer, and all thoughts vanish but one. They've found you. The footsteps draw nearer, each one rolling through the cave like a drumbeat, shaking dust from the ceiling into your hair. You press yourself against the rock, but the trembling doesn't stop. It builds, steady, deliberate, like the approach of something that knows you are here. You glance at the others huddled beside you, and you see it in their eyes, the breaking point. Fear no longer explains what they feel. This has gone beyond fear. One whispers a prayer, words you don't recognize, muttered with trembling lips. Another falls to her knees, forehead pressed to the dirt, as if submission itself could make her invisible. And in that moment you understand. To them, the giants are no longer just predators. They are gods. What else could you call something so vast? Their shadows blot out the moon. Their hands move mountains. Their voices roll through the valleys, like thunder. Every law of nature you once trusted bends under their weight. Fire kept wolves away. Spears kept cats at a distance. But nothing keeps the giants from taking what they want. When power is this absolute, it no longer feels like nature. It feels like divinity. And yet, it's not divinity as you would hope. Their laughter echoes like storms breaking over the mountains, cruel and sharp. They play with their prey before devouring it. They crush not only bodies, but spirit, ripping hope out of the air. To call them gods is to admit they rule the world. To call them demons is to admit they ruin it. Both are true. You remember the stories, the Nephilim of Scripture, who filled the earth with violence, the Titans who defied the gods of Olympus, the Jotnar who raged against creation itself. These weren't just tales, they were warnings. Warnings that what you see now has always been seen, remembered, and feared. The giant outside pauses. Its voice rolls low across the earth, a sound so deep it makes the cave walls hum. You don't understand the words, but the meaning is clear. It is amused. You are not hunted because you are needed. You are hunted because you are nothing. To it, your struggles, your prayers, your survival are a game. The others around you shake, some with devotion, some with despair. One whispers, "They are gods. They must be gods." Another hisses, "No, they are demons, and they have come to destroy us." You say nothing, because you know the truth is far worse. It doesn't matter what you call them. Gods, demons, rulers. It changes nothing. They hold all the power. You hold none. And as the giant's shadow darkens the cave mouth, you realize that worship and fear are the same thing here. Both end with you on your knees, waiting for mercy that will never come. The giant's shadow lingers at the mouth of the cave, vast and unmoving, as though it knows you are there and is in no rush to reach inside. For a moment, you wonder if it is toying with you again. But then, slowly, it crouches. The earth groans under its weight, dust raining from the ceiling as it lowers its colossal frame. And then it speaks. The sound is not language, as you know it. Each syllable rolls like an avalanche, each pause heavy as stone. You cannot decipher the meaning, but something in the rhythm worms its way into your mind. It feels less like listening to words, and more like the words are pressing themselves onto you, imprinting, burning. The others bow their heads, trembling. One of them even smiles faintly, as though receiving a blessing. And perhaps, in a way, that is exactly what this is. Because the giants do not only hunt with teeth and hands, they hunt with ideas. You've heard the whispers in the ruins, in the stories that survived the flood. The giants taught humans things they were never meant to know. They showed men how to forge weapons, not to hunt for food, but to kill each other more efficiently. They whispered secrets of fire, not to warm the cold, but to burn villages, to scorch the earth. They turned knowledge into poison. To the women, they offered something else: secrets of beauty, of charm, of seduction, oils that glistened like gold, powders to stain the skin, words to bend desire into chains. But this was not kindness. It was corruption. It was the reshaping of humanity into tools of lust and control, into echoes of their own hunger. And then came the darkest gifts: sorcery, enchantment, the art of summoning forces unseen. The giants revealed the cutting of roots, the power of spells, the language of shadows. They cloaked it as wisdom, as enlightenment, but you can feel the venom coiling beneath. With every secret shared, humanity grew weaker, not stronger, because these gifts carried costs too great to bear. You watch the giant's lips move, its voice rolling through your bones, and you understand that you are not just prey to be eaten. You are prey to be corrupted, to be broken from within. The giants don't need to kill you to destroy you. All they need is to teach you. And as your companions look up with wide, fevered eyes, drinking in every sound, you realize, with horror, that it's already working. They think they are learning. They think they are being blessed. But you see the truth. They are being reshaped. Even survival has become a kind of death here. Not of the body, but of the soul. You grip your stone spear, knuckles white, the wood trembling in your hands. It is sharp, hardened in fire, the best your people can make. Against wolves, it is deadly. Against a mammoth, it is at least a chance. But as you glance from the spear to the shadow outside the cave, the absurdity crushes you. Your weapon is a twig, a toothpick waved at a mountain. Still, desperation breeds madness. You remember the stories, the brave hunters, who swore they would not bow, who promised to fight until the end. And you have heard other tales too, ones carried through generations, of men who rose against giants and won. David against Goliath, Joshua against the Anakim. Heroes who faced impossible odds and struck miracles from the sky. But in your world, there are no miracles. You've seen a giant's weapon, a spear as tall as a tree, its tip a stone heavier than your body. One thrust could split a hill. One swing could wipe out an entire band of hunters before they even raised their voices in defiance. Even their discarded tools, axes broken in some ancient war, could crush your tribe with the weight of a falling cliff. And yet, some still try. You remember the day a group of men broke from the caves, charging with fire and spears, their voices rising in a desperate battle cry. For a heartbeat, you believed them. You believed courage might be enough. But then the shadow turned, the giant's laugh rolling across the valley, and in one motion, just one, he swept them aside with his arm. Their bodies scattered like leaves in the wind, broken before they even touched the ground. The lesson was clear. Courage is useless here. Your weapons are twigs. Your fire is sparks against the storm. Resistance is not noble. It is suicide. And yet, that knowledge cuts deeper than any blade. Because without resistance, without even the illusion of power, what remains of your humanity? You were born a hunter, a builder, a fighter. But now, your only role is to cower in the shadows and pray you are overlooked. You glance again at your spear. It trembles not because of your hand, but because of the ground, quaking under the giant's next step. You let it fall, the sound of wood clattering against stone pathetically small. The fight was lost before it began. The myths promised victory. Reality delivers only silence. The world could not endure them forever. You feel it in the air, in the weight of every tremor, in the hopelessness that hangs like smoke over every breath. The giants were not just predators. They were corruption itself. Every day, they took more food, more animals, more people. And when nothing remained, they took humanity's soul, twisting it with forbidden knowledge, until the earth itself seemed poisoned. The ancient texts speak of it. The Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees. Even the oldest whispers carried through the tribes. The corruption became so complete that intervention was the only answer. The heavens themselves grew heavy with grief. The solution was not negotiation. It was not battle. It was annihilation. And so, the flood came. Imagine waking to the sound of rain, not the gentle patter you've known before, but a roar, as if the sky itself had split open. Sheets of water fall without end, striking your face, your hands, your chest until the world is nothing but drowning. Rivers swell into seas. Oceans rise to devour the land. You scramble for higher ground. But there is no higher ground anymore. Only the endless surge of water, swallowing everything. For the first time, you see giants afraid. Their towering silhouettes wade through the waves, arms flailing, voices booming with rage and terror. Some cling to the tops of mountains, others thrash as the waters rise above even their heads. The creatures who laughed at spears, who crushed bears in their fists, are now powerless against the deluge. For a brief, terrible moment, you almost feel something like satisfaction. But then the water reaches you, and you realize the flood was never meant to save you. It was meant to cleanse, to reset, to erase. Genesis 6:13 says it clearly. So God said to Noah, I am going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. You understand now. The violence was not only the giants, it had spread to humanity itself. The only cure was to drown it all. Giants, men, beasts, everyone. The waters rise higher. You cling to debris, gasping for air, as the sky presses its weight onto the earth. You know you cannot last much longer. Perhaps that was the point. Perhaps survival was never meant for you. And yet, when the waters finally recede, something horrifying remains. Because the texts whisper of what came after. Numbers 13:33. We saw the Nephilim there. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. The flood did not end them. It only scattered them, buried them, hid them. And if they survived once, what stops them from returning again? Generations pass. The waters recede. The earth breathes again. New forests spread. New rivers carve their paths. And humans begin to believe they have a chance. You hunt smaller game. You plant the first seeds in soil, no longer churned by monstrous feet. For the first time in memory, nights pass without tremors. The silence feels like a blessing. But blessings don't last forever. One evening, as the sun bleeds into the horizon, you notice something strange, a shadow stretching across the fields. At first, you think it's the shape of a storm cloud rolling low, but then it moves. Slowly, purposefully. Another follows, and another. Your heart lurches. You've heard the stories from your elders, warnings of the Nephilim, tales of the Titans, whispers of the Jötnar. You thought they were just myths told to keep the children close to the fire. But now you know. They were memories. Memories of the first age. And those memories are walking toward you. The giants have returned. You remember the words of Numbers 13:33. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. That scripture was written long after the flood, long after the world was supposed to be cleansed. The giants did not vanish with the waters they endured. And now, as the horizon darkens with their shapes, you realize the nightmare never truly ended. It only slept. The people around you scatter, some screaming, some falling to their knees in prayer. But you can't move. Your body remembers what your ancestors endured. The crushing footsteps, the laughter that shook the air, the hunger that ended entire villages in a night. You thought you were free. You thought your world belonged to you again. But now, you see the truth. The giants only withdrew long enough for humanity to grow complacent. Long enough for you to forget what it means to live as prey. And as the tremors return beneath your feet, as the mist breaks to reveal silhouettes taller than mountains, you understand the most terrifying truth of all. History is not repeating itself. It never stopped. The giants walk again, their shadows swallowing the horizon, and with each step, you feel the truth pressing down on you. This is not a passing terror. This is not a season of danger that you might outlast. This is your reality now. A world where every day is lived at the mercy of beings who see you as less than nothing. So ask yourself, could you exist like this forever? Not for a night, not for a week, but for years, for generations. Could you endure being prey without end? At first, you might think so. Humans are stubborn creatures. You might tell yourself you could hide deeper in caves, gather food in secret, move by night when the giants sleep. But imagine what that existence really means. Every sound outside your shelter becomes a threat. Every meal is stolen from beneath their gaze. Every dream is broken by the memory of their laughter. You would never sleep soundly again. Your heart would race at every crackle of fire, every rustle of leaves. Even silence would torment you, because silence means listening, listening for the tremors that will always come. But it goes further than fear. Living as prey erodes more than your body. It erodes your mind. How long before you stop seeing yourself as human at all? How long before the thought of freedom becomes a cruel joke? A memory too painful to hold on to. You watch your companions and see the answer. Their shoulders slump lower each day. Their voices fade until conversations are nothing more than whispers about hiding places and sightings on the horizon. No one talks of tomorrow anymore. No one dares to dream of children, or tribes, or future hunts. The giants have stolen more than food and safety. They have stolen hope itself. And hope is what makes you human. So you begin to wonder, what would break first? Your body or your spirit? Would you die of hunger in the cracks of the earth, your skeleton forgotten? Or would you surrender long before, giving yourself willingly to their grasp, just to end the constant dread? Because survival isn't just about living another day, it's about finding meaning in that day. And in a world ruled by giants, meaning itself withers and dies. So here is the real question. Could you survive not just their footsteps, not just their hunger, but the endless erosion of your soul? Could you exist indefinitely as prey, without losing your sanity, your humanity, your will to live? Or would you break long before they even touched you? The earth is quiet now, but you know that silence is only ever temporary. The giants left their mark in stone, in scripture, in the bones of the world itself. And the texts whisper something darker still, that their reign was not ended, only interrupted, that their shadows are destined to rise again. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward. The words echo across time, like a warning carved into the fabric of history. If they walked once, what stops them from walking again? So imagine it. Imagine their return. Imagine waking tomorrow, not to news of wars or storms, but to tremors rolling beneath your feet. Imagine looking up from your city streets to see shapes taller than skyscrapers, eyes burning in the haze, voices that shake the ground itself. If giants walk the earth again, would humanity stand a chance this time? Or would we crumble faster than our ancestors? Too soft, too fragile, too blind to remember the warnings left for us. The ancient stories tell us this age of terror may not be finished. The only question is whether we are prepared for its return. What do you think? Are the giants only myths carved into old stone, or are they waiting, watching, ready to walk among us once more? Tell us in the comments below. If this story kept you awake tonight, give this video a like. It helps more than you know. And subscribe, so you never miss the secrets still hidden in our past. Keep your eyes open. Keep your mind sharp. And until we meet again, remember, in the age of giants, ignorance isn't bliss, it's extinction.